Hi there. I'm Christine with Wired Schools. I'm a health rights advocate, and today we are having our very first fireside chat. It's the first in the series, and we're really excited about bringing these to you. We'll be covering all sorts of topics, basically about any global problem that's causing harm, and that'll be the umbrella, and it'll be just really, really interesting. They'll be featuring 1 to 3 experts on each topic. And today is our first maiden voyage, take 2 actually, with Alfredo Madero. He was with us last week and we did a recording, but he had a tropical storm kind of flirting in his area there, Storm Ivo, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that right, but it was causing some technical difficulties. So we put our heads together and decided, let's do this again. So this is take 2. And those of you who were with us before, welcome back. And thanks for being with us. And again, feel free to post any questions in the chat window. We'll be getting to questions and answers in about half hour, 45 minutes. So I will start with introducing our guest. Alfredo Madero is owner at Shine Bodyworks in California. He's been researching the health impacts from wireless technology, electromagnetic fields, and microwave radiation on the body since 2010. He's designed a protocol that includes radiation mitigation and shielding, along with a specialty massage program to correct the accumulated side effects on human tissue and organs, in combination with a special nutrition program and supplements to buffer the body's excessive and accumulated oxidative stress, acidity, and magnetized blood and lymph system. I should have broken that up into 2 sentences.
You did great.
That's a lot of information there. So Alfredo has given many presentations in schools and spas and has offered to share more on all of this with us today. So please help me welcome Alfredo.
Thank you, Christine. It's an honor to be here working with people like you, good humans, doing what humans should do, right? Protect us and protect the planet.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was recently called a watchman, and I like to think of myself as just because I'm compelled to share what I see coming down the tracks for folks, as in case you might want to know, this is coming toward all of us. So,
yes.
Whatever you want to do about it, I just want you to know about it. You might want to hop off or divert the rails or whatever you can. So protect yourself. So. Yeah, it's quite interesting, this work we're compelled to do, but very rewarding. So if I could start off, I have a few questions that I believe we all would like to hear. So why don't we start off at the beginning, Alfredo? What led you to this line of work?
Sure, and back in 2010, my baby, I believe, was 8 months old, and he right after a series of vaccines, he started having seizures. And, at the time I was in a holistic health institute learning about ways to treat the body naturally versus medically with petrochemicals. So immediately after his first seizure, we just didn't know what was happening. The doctors didn't know that. Chalk Hospital is one of the best hospitals in the world to treat children in Orange County. It's recognized worldwide. And so it was a bit disconcerting to me that I had no answers as to why this happened to him. Long story short, he had another seizure, different conditions. It wasn't really a febrile seizure anymore. He had no fever. He had no more shots, no more vaccines, but it happened again, and then again, and then again. And by then I had already mastered some anti-seizure classes in this holistic institution in California. By taking acupressure and reflexology, I was already a reflexologist and a teacher, because we imported people from China. And in my past life, my corporate life, I managed spas and wellness centers. So I had unlimited budgets to bring the most interesting people around the world, including the Dalai Lama, to speak to our guests. And some of those ventures were in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So we were very fortunate to come across equipment to recognize patterns of unhealth in bodies and disease. So I realized through my experience that things can be done naturally, and the body is quite amazing. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seizures later, I was waking this kid up with my anti-seizure reflexology recipe and accommodating the plates of his skull. Clearly, he was going through some sort of inflammation in his brain that was causing his plates to move. He was still quite mobile, and the rhythm was off. It's pretty erratic. It's a very specific technique, but I got to collaborate with the doctors, with the neurosurgeons, and because it was one of those hospitals where there's a lot of, it's a teaching hospital. People from all over the world come here to see what's going on. So I made a really good connection with, with the neurologist, even though I was getting nothing from them, to be honest with you. They couldn't tell me. They literally gave me the medicine to give to him as if, epileptic medicine for epileptic seizures, but they said, we're not really sure. So we're going to leave it up to you. But if you do give him the medicine, then you need to let us know, because he will then be a special child, right?
Wow. That had to be quite something to go through, to
Yes.
be going to such lofty experts that you're looking to for assistance, and to find out that you're coming. Yeah, that speaks a lot to the state
Now
of our health.
imagine this, the insurance companies cover you one MRI, brain MRI, CT scan a year. He had 3 in 4 days. So each additional one cost us $10,000. Luckily, we had reserves, right? But and we didn't get any coverage because I had homes, and they're like, you don't fit into the coverage, California coverage. You're going to have to pay them from your properties. So all kinds of issues we bumped into, and I was disillusioned by the system because they offered no solution for me. So I had to become the hero, right? I knew I could wake this kid up. And I knew that the doctors were watching what was happening to him during my treatments. But here's the key moment: 7 to 8 seizure. Bumped into a link on the internet. I was reading hundreds of books. I don't even know how many papers from 1950s, causes for seizures on babies, all possibilities of modifying this kid's diet, because there was really no solutions until it happened. Then somebody gave him the anti-seizure pills, but for him, they just didn't work. If I didn't make it there in time, he'd be in seizure mode for 8 hours. And that was a very unusual case, that according to the doctors. But if I got there, within 20 minutes, I'd get him out of seizure mode. His vitals would come back to normal, his breathing patterns, and we were all worried about oxygenation to the brain, right? So I bumped into a link that full moon's possible trigger for seizures in babies. And right next to my computer, there was the tower of all his medical records and hospitalizations by date. Bingo. I looked at the schedule of the full moon for that year, and it matched his seizure days. So the day of the full moon, he would have a seizure.
That's amazing. I believe I've shared with you before that my whole life I've known that I'm highly affected and attuned with the full moon, especially about 3 or 4 days before. Lots of anxiety. And doctors, I've mentioned this too, they just think I'm a little nuts. There can't be anything, but like we talked about before, how could there not be when the moon controls the tides and we're mostly water? To me, it seems pretty logical. Yet the mainstream medical industrial complex as a whole, they don't tend to want to recognize that. Yes. But thank you for sharing that, because that's
they're actually reacting to it too. Because if you go to the stats, jails, psychiatric institutions and hospitals and police departments increase their staffing up to 50% the day of the full moon and the days around the full moon.
Exactly.
So this is all statistics from a great epidemiologist. You had mentioned him. The name escaped, but I'm going to have him on the links. He's an epidemiologist that was used in the La Quinta case against power companies.
Sam Milham?
Sam Milham, yes. Great book. Samuel. Very entertaining. And so that's a first. Any parent should read this book.
I have it. It's a wonderful book. Thank you for mentioning that, and we will be including links in the comments section on the video, everybody. So that'll be great. So thank you for sharing that. And I was going to mention that, as you know, the high radiation and the CT scans. What is it, like 1,000 times a chest X-ray, something like that?
I believe it's 100 times.
100 times.
I
And he
mean,
did,
100 too many times, you know what I mean?
exactly. And he didn't need to have that on one hand, but then he did need to have that to kind of see what was going on, or for them to go
Correct.
through.
Well, not only were they not sure what was going on, but they claimed that it was a mistake, right? That his head was a little out of position because he was screaming, bloody murder there in that machine. He didn't want to be there tied up and with
Poor
electricity
guy.
scanning, of course. And now add to that, in general terms, one scan is worth all the radiation you get a whole year from the sun. Okay, this is protonic radiation, light.
Right.
So you're accelerating your exposure to this, to this radiation in one session, the whole year.
That's amazing. Well,
Flying does that too when you get into a plane. So you need to add that up and then take
absolutely.
corrective measures because this is all cumulative. Your body is reacting to it, responding and adapting. How does it adapt? By losing life, by losing electricity, by losing vitality.
And that's such a good point. And this force that we're talking about, it doesn't help to sell it to people, to be aware of it, to believe
Yes.
that it's real, because it's invisible. It's a man-made environmental pollutant that you can't see, smell, taste, hear, or feel for the most part. So it's really hard for people. Well, I don't feel it. I had a friend say, well, I don't feel it, so I'm not concerned. But anyway, it's affecting every living being on the planet, as you know. And
It is negotiating with you, your blood, your lymphatic system, your tissue, your calcium is getting drawn out of your bones to be able to fight this. So now you're getting thicker blood. So all of that is going to go in the links and the references that we're going to have in the video ultimately.
absolutely. And I'd
But,
like,
so how I reacted to it was, okay, I touch bodies for a living, right, as a massage therapist, but I was a director more than anything, but I was always a massage therapist. I'm an incredible body worker. So I said, there's got to be a way to recognize this. And I went on and I did 3,000 home inspections and made diagrams of where people's pain was in relationship to the intensity and the direction of this radiation. And depending on which one it was it microwaves or was it voltage? Right? Was it electricity or light that was going to you and how it changed your body? And this was evidence that nobody could say no to.
absolutely. When they see the meters, whether they're measuring EMFs or dirty electricity or whatever, they don't lie, and that's good. I
It's
mean,
mathematics. It's the language of God. It's telling you right there that you're losing at a rapid rate. You're losing your electrons. That's essentially what's happening. So to connect the dots real quick with your first question is, when I acquired equipment to understand the electromagnetic influence of the moon over biological beings, I accidentally discovered artificial radiations at the rate of 64,000 times that is natural. And to give you an example, when the moon is up and you're getting a little extra microwave radiation from the sun, being a reflection of the sun. And at night, well, that's not so good for you, right? So it's about 10 times increased because I would sleep with meters connected to the earth for me to understand in very remote places. And I want to understand nature in its language in electromagnetics. And then I compared it to artificial environments where we're all in. And I said, well, no wonder. Like we're bathing in this radiation, and I'm always connected to the earth. I got my grounding gear. I walked the earth barefoot 7 years in a row, and I became a human detector. I can go somewhere and tell you this is not where my body needs to be.
that's amazing, and that I want to talk with you a little bit about your tether there. So yeah, well, that'll be great. And I wanted to mention also that on my YouTube channel, we're in the process of posting we hosted a 10 expert roundtable on chronic childhood conditions, exploring causation and solutions. And it's just, I think you'll find that really, really strong. And it's all connected with what Alfredo is sharing today. It's like Janice Barcelo talks about the radiation into the brain, into the bone, and what she calls FTD, the frontotemporal dementia, that more and more children are being affected by this. So it's harming the brain and the bone, the skull.
It has an origin, and it can be discovered by any parent. And that's what sort of what I wanted to relay today to everyone. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but I figured out a way for my son to stop having seizures because the environment he was in was extremely toxic, sleeping directly over 100 smart meters and a 75,000 volt transformer that fed the entire building with 100 apartments.
It's amazing.
And
I
they
have
rent
no
houses.
doubt that you saved his life. I mean, that's
Yes.
clear. So, yeah, I mean, right there, you're such a hero. Thank you so much for sharing.